panel on privacy in computer science and computer engineering education. Basically, the issue was raised a couple of panels during this year's CPDP that without trained engineers, all our frameworks and pads and whatever we are developing will probably not make it into practice. And this is exactly why we proposed this panel by Ulm University together with the Prepare project. And well, I would like to highlight the issue exactly from our curriculum, the Bachelor of Computer Science curriculum at Ulm University. It's in German, but you can read it anyway. The important point is, you will notice there is no privacy in this curriculum. And the question is, why is that the case, and should it be different? In fact, in the networking course that I teach, I spend like 45 minutes talking about privacy. And you may argue maybe serve a more prominent position. On the other hand, if you look at curriculum and how curriculums are designed, you have to compete with a lot of other topics, and probably someone from database may argue that learning SQL is much more important than learning about privacy, and that's what we want to discuss. So what is the role of computer science in the curriculum? I would briefly like to introduce the Prepare project. A little bit advertisement here. So Prepare is about privacy by design and privacy engineering, but as part of that we also look at privacy patterns, and we are about to bring live a portal, privacypatterns.eu, that's about collecting and discussing and refining design patterns on privacy. And the third important pillar of the project is education on privacy. We target different groups, students, professionals, policymakers, etc. Because we think no matter what we do, if we don't educate people about privacy and the opportunities that we have in this field, it will be for nothing. And here I also want to advertise a little bit. You have these little flyers on the seats. We are organizing a privacy training workshop in March. And I don't think you are the target audience for this, because actually what we want to do is we want to have engineers that have little privacy experience, and we will train them and educate them on legal aspects, on societal aspects, but also on technical aspects. And in the end, we want to enable them to design privacy-aware systems using, for example, basic credentials. So if you have people in your organization where you say, hey, that is exactly something you should do, please point them to our workshop. Participation is really doable. We would be happy to see people from your organization in here. So that's it from my side. I'm kind of done with my job. I only need to introduce the panelists. So Jaap-Henk Hoepman, you probably all know him. I mean, he's in the community for a very long time from Radboud University, Nijmegen. He's going to be the moderator. So he's going to kind of be the bridge between the audience and the panelists. Then we have Raj Samani from McAfee in the panel. He's CTU for the EMEA region, and he's basically going to tell us what the industry perspective is, why computer science students and engineering students should know about privacy. We have Carmela Troncoso from GRADIANT, so she's kind of in a bridge position between academia and an engineering company where people try to solve real-world problems using results from academic research, and she's going to tell us what the challenges related to privacy are in this respect. Claudia Roda from the American University Paris is responsible for the education work package in Prepare, and she's teaching privacy not only to technical students but also to students, for example, from a European policy study program. So she's also going to highlight the different target audiences that we may want to reach with privacy education. Then we have Claudia Diaz from KU Leuven. computer scientist and working in privacy, both in research and education for a very long time already. So she has a lot of experience what the challenges are when trying to teach privacy to computer scientists. And with that, I conclude and hand over to Jaap-Henk and then to Raj.
Well, I'm going to hand over straight to Raj because I'm the moderator, so I'm supposed to say anything. The position is clear. Raj, go ahead.
Here we go.
So I've been asked to fill in for a colleague of mine to discuss privacy skills. And I kind of had to ask the question, what do you mean by privacy skills? Because the way that I've actually witnessed the way that people consume privacy or their expectation of privacy, i.e. the general public, is actually quite shocking, to be honest with you. I'll give you a real life story. You know, we were in Westfield Shopping Centre in London. So my wife and I just parked the car and we went upstairs and Cadbury's were giving away a free cream egg. So we queued up with children, and of course they want chocolate, and there was about 40 people in the queue. And I kind of went to the front of the queue to say, well, why are we queuing up? Aren't you just handing chocolate out? And apparently, you have to provide your personal details, your demographic details, your contact information in exchange for a piece of chocolate. Mm-hmm. And there were about 40 people waiting, just like Lemming. So I asked the question. I said, what are you going to do with the data? And they said, well, look behind, we've got our privacy policy just here. And it's kind of like, you know those old westerns where you see tumbleweed and cobwebs, and that's how it kind of felt. And I wrote about this in the Telegraph, and I said, you know, people attribute absolute no value to their personal data. They view it as worthless. Okay, worth as much as a piece of chocolate. So the question I kind of began with, which was, we're trying to teach people privacy skills, and yet we live in an environment in which people really don't see any value in the personal data that they have, broadly speaking. Now, we've all seen this quote here: personal data is the new oil for the digital economy. I'm of the opinion, I hope, that we will get to an opportunity or a scenario or an environment where individuals and consumers and citizens will recognize the monetary value associated with their personal data. What that means is the economic benefits associated with that will be consumed by the consumer or the citizen. And so therefore, when we're sitting on this panel and talking about what do we need to teach engineers about privacy, it's not just a regulatory environment, it's the economic opportunities that are associated with personal data. So I realise that's not the most popular position, but I'll stick by it. And the example I'll give you is, was anybody surprised at the price WhatsApp were acquired by? From Facebook, $19 billion? A few nodding heads? I mean, how much did WhatsApp actually make as a company? Nothing, right? So why did you get a market value of $19 billion? Because personal data had economic value. In fact, $42 per user was how much they valued personal data. If you compare YouTube, it was $20 a user, Instagram was $30 a user. So the actual value of personal data is increasing. So therefore, the skills that we need to start to teach people as we begin to look forward are not just the regulatory requirements, but maybe marketing skills. Getting them to understand ways that we can articulate the benefit to the consumer. So today, we're kind of witnessing two key trends here. You know, you're seeing the personalization of data, service personalization, and you're seeing targeted marketing. This is kind of how organizations today are monetizing personal data, but I would argue that actually that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, a good example, I'm in the market for a new car, and so I went to this new website where I enter my personal details, and they will then, as a personal RFP, go out and find me the best price, similar to how we do insurance. And in fact, how we get insurance now has now changed as well. It's now using personal data to give value to the consumer. There's little black boxes, which I know is not doing so well in Germany, but in the UK and the US, is being widely adopted. So, what is it that we want as we begin to monetize personal data opportunities? To me, it's three things. If we're teaching skills for individuals, we need them to ensure that they can provide transparency to the consumer. How many people have a smartphone? How many of you have apps on that smartphone? How many of you can tell me just one single app, what data it collects about you?
Everything.
Exactly what? Where does that data go? How is that communicated? What they do with that data? Not one person, right? So, as we begin to consider privacy considerations for the 21st century, we're living in a scenario with zero transparency. We're living in a scenario with barely any consent, and you would argue whether it's debatable whether you get value. Those are the three tenets that we need to start to enshrine upon modern solutions, and such that the engineers, as they're doing that, can consider those three key points. And this is kind of the world we live in today. You know, right now, my browser knew that I was looking for a new car, and everywhere I go, I get offers for new cars. And actually, what I would say today is the scenario that we live in today is that the world is quite creepy. That's, in my opinion, how I see the world around targeted marketing. So I kind of wanted to draw your attention to the bottom left-hand side your way, which is there are now projects and approaches in play from governments with regards to freeing up personal data and giving transparency to consumers. I've been on the working board for the My Data project, which is a Department of Business project in the UK, and that allows any consumer to go to the service provider and request information through a technical standard about what they have about you. So for example, I want to find out from my phone company, my mobile phone company, everything that they have about me. And I can do that in a technical fashion as opposed to an administrative approach to FOI. That will allow me the opportunity to be able to make the best decision and get value as well. I have transparency and I have consent on my data. So I think privacy is changing. I hope this will have an impact upon users' perception of privacy and perception of personal data. I've got a price here. So that's something I just tell my daughter all the time. She goes, "Daddy, it's a free application." And I said, "There's no such thing as a free application. It's collecting data about you at some point." So here's the example, the revealed value of personal data. And actually Frank and I had this discussion at lunchtime. And I said to Frank, you know, the reality is that today the perception of personal data has never been so low. So I told you about the chocolate story. About 6 months after that, I was asked to join a loyalty program, and I was asked to pay for that loyalty program. And when I asked the individual, and I said, "Well, you want me to pay with money and my personal data?" The answer was yes. And apparently 200,000 people had signed up to this loyalty program. So personal data is now worth less than chocolate, it's now worth nothing in the eyes of the consumer. I believe that there are market opportunities not only for business, but also for the consumer to get monetary value from personal data. So if we ask about what privacy skills do we need to start to teach people as we begin to look forward, I think this new personal data economy should clearly be one of those. And I will now hand over to
Carmela.
One question to the price tags which have been given there in this study from Design. Are these prices, on the black market, which some black organizations are willing to pay?
Oh, okay. So I can tell you about so those are, I guess, the commercial prices. But I do a lot of work with Europol and law enforcement around criminal infrastructures. The prices for stolen information, credit cards and so forth, I can give you the up-to-date price list on those. Pretty cheap, as well as you can get medical records. Medical records are about $6. Credit cards are about $12. Twitter accounts are about $4 or $5.
Can I also ask you one question for clarification? It almost seems as if you're suggesting that instead of educating people how to protect their privacy, you're more like educating them how to deal with a world where everything is transparent and how they can get get some return of investment. Or return for that. It's not their investment, but
no. But I think it's three things. I talked about transparency and consent, but I think value is key. Because the reality is you're not going to care about something unless you attribute value to it. You know, for example, you're not going to lock your car if you see the car as worthless. Likewise with personal data, why are people so willing to hand over their personal data for nothing? Because they don't attribute any value in any way, shape or form. And so being able to articulate the value in personal data such that, you know, I'm not going to queue up and give away all of my data for chocolate because actually, this has actually got value and it's worth more than chocolate.
Yeah, I understand your position, but there is actually an alternative position where you could say, like, for instance, even in big cities in Canada, people don't lock their homes, not because they do not value whatever is in their homes. It's just that
Because they
there's
don't
no
perceive
risk.
a threat.
There is no risk. There is no threat.
Well, they don't perceive that there's a threat. That doesn't mean that there isn't a threat.
Well, I guess that's something that you can measure by looking how many houses are broken into. But that was just a remark, and maybe. And just sorry, maybe one question and then
Yeah, I just would like to comment to that too. I find this a very dangerous point of view, saying that consumers don't value their privacy or their data because they give away the data. The issue is not that they give away the data. The problem is that they're not aware of the privacy implications of doing it. So that's where we need to educate. We need to educate about these issues. And there has been lots of studies by colleagues of mine, Kargl, where we look at bounded rationality aspects of making privacy decisions, and that there are aspects like cognitive biases and immediate gratification bias, things like that, playing to a role, and basically can persuade you to give away your data, even if you do value
So,
your
yes.
privacy.
So how I would counter that is, you know, what we're talking about is how we make the case for your, you know, individual taking care of their data. You know, and as an industry, as security, privacy industries, we do provide threat scenarios. We do provide people with the what-if scenarios. But this is kind of approaching it from a different perspective, which is saying, well, okay, look, we've given you the what-if scenarios. I mean, you know, there's no doubt that most people haven't heard of some of the major security incidents, you know, Target and Neiman Marcus and others. But the reality is that people, you know, I think people don't recognize the commercial exploitation of personal data. And so this is kind of saying, well, okay, I can give you the what-if scenarios, the scare stories, but actually, why don't we approach this differently and say, well, here you go. What you have now has value. So therefore, why don't you look at ways to monetize this for your own benefit rather than giving it up for nothing?
But let's exactly. Let's keep the discussion, the rest of the discussion until after everybody has made their position statement.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about what I miss on engineers. So I come from an academic background in privacy. I did my PhD on privacy enhancing technologies here in Leuven, and then I moved back to Spain to a research center where I am a security and privacy lead, and I have to help the whole of the center to embed security and privacy on our solutions. And our goal is to make transfer of knowledge, so companies come to us for advanced solution where we actually have to construct things that are not on the market for them to embed. And one of the things that all of they need, and especially because of all of these scary stories, are security and privacy. And the first thing that I found is that it's very difficult to know what these companies really want with respect to privacy, and this may link to Raj's point about people not knowing very much the value of privacy. And when we say people, it's not only the end user that gives the data, it's also the companies that don't value their own data as a company, the corporate data, or even the data of their clients. So I find it difficult to know what they want. They find it difficult to express their privacy needs, so it's very difficult to build something for them. In general, they do not see themselves as a threat. And this goes to something that was discussed in a panel this morning, that is very well explained by Claudia here, Martini and Seda Gurses in this paper, Hero Billion, when it explains that the data control, the data protection framework in which companies normally want to frame themselves are those in which they are trustworthy, and therefore they don't need to impose any kind of privacy protective measures. And the last thing is that privacy preserving solutions are kind of magical stuff, are these magical things in which we can get some data without telling the people what data do we need, in which we can reveal our location, get information related to our location without actually revealing our location. And this is something very difficult to understand for people that are not well versed technically about these technologies. So my clients I cannot really have a very good conversation with them because they cannot understand what I'm talking about. And then on the other side, I have the engineers that speak with the clients, that try to solve the problems, and they also have many problems because of their background. Have been here in Belgium for 4 years, being trained about privacy. They have not done that. They came straight from telecom engineering towards research center and put in front of a lot of clients asking them questions about privacy and security. So they don't really know what should be provided, what data protection means, what privacy means. Whether is there a difference between these two concepts? Why some clients say privacy when they actually mean we want data protection compliant, and other clients say data protection, but I actually want to hide all the data in a privacy preserving fashion. They have little legal background in general. They have not been exposed to conferences like this one where you interact with lawyers, so they cannot really make these assessments. And they have little knowledge on the risks that they are. They have not been exposed again to all of these. We have the horror stories, but they don't have the technical behind it. But why is it possible to de-anonymize? Why is it possible to infer all of this personal data from all these databases? Well, I actually have a strip all of the names of the people and put a unique identifier, and there's still so much in there, but they have never seen all of this happening. So they cannot really think about how to solve a problem they don't know that it exists. And then I also found that on many levels they have not much grasp of what crypto, how advanced crypto works, all of these magic protocols, and sometimes even not the not-so magic protocols, like how does this work? Why does the key have to be kept secret? Which part of the public secret key has to be kept secret? And they very rarely know that privacy-enhancing technologies exist. So what is out there? What could I use? When can I use it? Which kind of adversary does this protect me from? Which goes back to the case where it isn't clear whether our clients, the company that's holding the data, is an adversary or not. So which of the privacy-enhancing technologies actually fit in this case? And can I combine technologies, which is something that in the academic world we forget about it, we make separate papers, we get a lot of citations, but then when it comes to time to I want to have an engineering system, an end-to-end system where I have to put in all of the layers, this bit of protection, it is very unclear how to link them, and how when I combine these two technologies, I got the best of the both, or I actually have just screwed myself and lost all the protection. And then finally, a question that I get a lot is how do I measure privacy? I have made this system, I have used all of these techniques that I read in the literature, I went to Google a Scholar, I Googled for this thing, I put all, and now do I have privacy? How much privacy do I have? Is my client happy? How can I explain to him the risk that he's having if there is no way to measure this thing? And then even in the moment that we have a design, we have learned about all of these technologies, and then like, okay, let's gonna implement the solution for our client that miraculously has understood what we want him to do, and the problem that we have is this one. This is not my idea. I copied this from Jaap-Henk from Twitter, and I like this analogy very much because I live it every day. So when it goes to pets, we come from the academic world, which is the number one there that draws some circles. So like researchers write me a lot of formulae with a lot of Greek letters and a lot of stuff in there, and many words, many very, very important words that I don't know how to implement. I don't know how to arrive from the surface to the all, and there are many tools that are missing for me, and they are missing when you have engineers that are not really trained on this for years and years and years as PhD students. How do you explain to them how to translate all of these Greek letters into actual protocols in actual lines of code? In fact, sometimes I tell my engineers, when you are actually implementing this thing, you call the variables like with these Greek letters just in case they mean something. Do not invent anything, just try to follow the thing, and even then it is very difficult. So, to me, in my world, in my day-to-day life, I would like to have engineers that have better training in privacy, so understand what the privacy concept means, understand what data protection is, the difference between these two, and how to help our clients to get what they really want. Understand what are your privacy adversaries, what they can do, what they cannot do, whom do I want to defend, with, again, to help the client understand which is the real adversary that they are confronting when they want to build their system, understand how to measure privacy, understand how to assess whether the design that they are doing is good or not. It is very easy when I have a functional algorithm. Either I have the solution, I have not. With security or privacy, it is very difficult. How do I know whether this is secure, whether this is private? Otherwise, I'm having a lot of faith in what I have done is correct. And then, of course, about understanding privacy enhancing technologies and cryptography, and probably Claudia is going to tell us a little bit more about how this can be done. And they need a lot of help from researchers to push forward from the research world towards implementation, or at least to give more guidance and to help engineers that don't have such a good training in how to implement these technologies. And the other takeaway that I got, like these guys asked me, yeah, what about privacy education for engineers, for computer scientists, but also the non-engineers need better training, like as Raj said, they need to understand what is the value of the data they are handling, what are the privacy implications, in order to be able to ask for solutions and to assess that the solution that we're giving to them is good. And just as a side note, I could have given exactly the same talk for security instead of privacy, and most of the things that I have said would have been true.
Thanks, Carmela. And maybe as a point of clarification, when you talk about the clients that you talk to, that is typically not directly the engineers, right? That's probably more like
that's why I have the non-engineers. Normally I speak with either commercial people. Sometimes I speak with engineers, but even the engineers, when I speak to somebody that builds, I don't know, we have a lot of people that work for stuff for boats. So they build the radar on the boat, or they build something that can detect issues. They have no idea, even if they are the engineers, and they are the best of actually doing this radar that detects whether you have a tuna or a cod in the middle of the ocean. When it comes at the time to say what their security needs are, or the privacy needs are, they are clueless, because they cannot understand this concept. So it's not only about, it's at all levels, as I say here in my conclusion, but it's not only when you talk to non-engineers.
And do you also see a difference in the kind of things that say, on the one hand, the engineers, and on the other hand, say, the more business-oriented people would need to know in terms of privacy and possibilities of technology, or is it relatively the same?
It is different, but it overlaps.
Can I ask a question? You said measure security. How do you measure security? Because it's quite subjective, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but I have this, as I said, I can give the same for security. I will have the how to measure security. I have this a lot. Like with my client, I build something. How do I know this is secure? And sometimes we will have to say, and then I will turn the question to you, the McAfee guy, and say, like, how do you tell your clients? You started it.
You're ending it.
Okay, next up is Claudia.
So, hi. I'm a professor of computer science, so I come from a technical background at the American University of Paris, and I'm part of the Prepare project where I lead the work package on education. And when we talk about education, we have a very wide view of the stakeholders of education. So we go from the general public to legal people, to practitioner, technical ones, and regulators, to students. So there is a wide range. But now here I will concentrate on the computer science and engineer educations. So what I will do, I will look in particular at the computer science curriculum that has just been reviewed in 2013 by the IEEE and ACM, and what their recommendations are for computer science students. So this is the computer science curriculum. Just to give you a quick idea of how this works, because this is what most universities would follow when they provide an education for computer science students. The curriculum is organized in knowledge area, which basically are topical themes, and within each knowledge area they have a set of knowledge units. And the topics within different knowledge areas may be organized into courses in different ways at different institutions. And the knowledge units are quantified in terms of lecture hours. So they give the minimum necessary time to cover a certain topic, just having somebody standing there talking without considering everything else. And well, they specify this, that this is what they think is the absolute minimum. The core of the curriculum is organized in electives, and then so two core tiers and electives. And the reason why it's organized like this is because the curriculum for computer science is becoming so large that in order to be able to provide for all type of institutions, also the smaller ones, they have a small set of core tier 1 topics which are required for computer science students, and then a core tier 2 set of topics which ideally are all completely covered, but at least they're covered at 80%, but there is a little bit of choice there. And then elective, which obviously the larger the choice, the better for the students. What is new in the computer science curriculum 2003 is that there is a new knowledge area, which is called information assurance and security. And they define it as information assurance and security as a domain is the set of controls and processes, both technical and policy, intended to protect and defend information and information systems. So there are certain topics which are germane to information assurance and security, and then there are a set of topics that are sort of spread out all the other knowledge areas. So just to give you a sense of the weight of information assurance and security, here you see the long list of knowledge areas, and the information assurance and security is about 3% of the whole curriculum, at 9 hours, if I remember correctly. So you can consider this very small or very large or whatever, depending on where you come into computer science. But one thing that I would like to highlight is the contents of this knowledge area. There is a very strong focus on security. And for example, the security by design is mentioned, but privacy by design doesn't exist at all. The privacy topics are mostly included as elective topics. And the large majority of privacy topics are non-technical. For example, they have privacy and civil liberties. So I would say that is the first step. At least privacy is there in some form. There is at least a minimum awareness that is required of computer science students about privacy. But overall, privacy still plays a very marginal role in the curriculum. Now, from our point of view, and this is a proposal, but I'm sure you probably have many other ideas, we would like our students to know quite a few things, and here I connect to what Carmela was saying. If they're going to go out and work and implement and become engineers, and they are aware of privacy, they at least should have some knowledge about the complexity of privacy, for example, the different types of privacy, the different paradigms of privacy. We certainly would like them to know, as computer science and engineers, the technical solution for privacy, privacy enhancing technology, and we would like them to know the legislation and especially the relation between technical solution and legal requirements. This is not easy, but it's the sort of mindset that we would like them to have. We will also like them to have tools to evaluate privacy risks and establish privacy requirements, for example, privacy impact assessment. We would like them to know the consequences of the non-respect of privacy for a business, for example. And so what is the impact of privacy on business, both in terms of the liability, but also in terms of the advantages, trust that it may bring. So what we see here is that we have a very highly interdisciplinary approach that we need to take. So we want the technical side, but we want the technical side connected to a set of other issues in a quite dynamic way. So the problems that we encounter once we come to this, apart from not being not appearing at all in the computing curriculum 2013, and hopefully we will appear at some point in the standard curriculum, is that privacy is not yet a mainstream subject. So both students and professors may not see the importance of having privacy. The other problem is that there are very few faculty who have the knowledge necessary to cover all these aspects. So how do we put these aspects together? So do we have professors to work together? Do we give students the different views, and then we let them try to put together, for example, the legal and the technical aspect? Obviously, it would be nice to provide some guidance. So what you were mentioning, one of the courses that we've been teaching at the American University, it was a co-taught course, but in this case it was for master in public policy, so it was definitely not technical, and so we need to do the same thing for our computer science students. Another question is privacy one course? Or is privacy 3 courses or whatever? Or should we think of privacy as something that is spread throughout the curriculum? So when you learn about databases, you also learn privacy techniques for databases. When you learn about networks, you also learn privacy techniques there. So I don't think we know yet from the experience here. Maybe Claudia, you will be able to tell us a bit more. How interesting would be to have privacy or privacy and security specialization. There are programs like this, and what is the outcome? It would be good to have this program assessed and see how useful they are and how much it's employment of the students. Another problem we have is the lack of educational material for our courses, and so this is one of the things we're trying to do within the Prepare project, and the continued growth of the computer science curriculum, and this is for all disciplines. It's not only for privacy. I just give you 2 numbers. There were 280 core courses in the curriculum proposed in 2001, and core hours, not core courses. And there are 308 core hours in the 2013 curriculum. So obviously, at one point we can't just keep counting more stuff, and we will have to select somehow. And maybe deciding to put in the process. On the other end, we also have a very strong opportunity as we introduce privacy for computer science students to also spread awareness of privacy throughout all a set of other curriculum. And so privacy doesn't need to be only for computer science students, obviously, and this is what you certainly were mentioning. And one of the important things, I think, it is to express the value and get students to understand the value of privacy, that it's not only economic value. If you like, this is a pragmatic approach. By getting them to feel the economic value, you may get their attention, but there is certainly societal value, ethical values, personal values that we can certainly communicate, and with that we can communicate what is valuable and where we should be moving as a society to in terms of privacy. And
Thank you.
Claudia, one immediate question. So you have checked the ACM curriculum. What would you throw out?
No, that's my problem. I mean, this is it. This is the problem. I mean, if I think, I always tell my students, when I started studying computer science, we were looking at assembly language. It was really quick to learn. I mean, and then what you could do was, and now we teach them Java, right? First programming course, Java. There is so much that is left there. So it's really, we are on a different scale, and somehow we will have to rethink a lot about the
And we
computer
still
science.
want to teach them assembly language.
And we still want to teach them.
So,
Claudia, yes, next.
Okay, so should I start? Okay, so I guess I can have the opportunity to respond to some of the challenges. What I would like to do is to give a bit of an overview of what is going on. And together with Jaap-Henk, we had the opportunity to organize an informal meeting last summer next to the Privacy Enhancing Technology Symposium that took place in Amsterdam. And since a lot of very prominent researchers in the area of privacy were getting together there, we thought it was a good opportunity to have sort of some informal meeting to exchange ideas and see what people are doing in their courses and how they are translating the excellent research that they are doing into education and passing it not just to the PhD students but also to the master and bachelor students. So it was a great surprise when I started asking around. It was very informal. We didn't have a public website or a call for participation, nothing. So it was really word of mouth. We kind of know the people in the area. I was very greatly surprised to see that most of the colleagues in our area are actually, in one way or another, introducing privacy in the curriculum. In many cases, this is very much because of course privacy is so broad, and I'm talking about a subset of the sort of privacy research domain, which is the people that are coming mainly from a computer security perspective into privacy. So this is sort of the subset within the privacy research. And a lot of these colleagues are including it in either as a standalone courses or as courses that, as part of a computer security course. So many of our colleagues are teaching computer security and introducing many of the privacy technologies that would be considered privacy as part of their computer security course with more or less weight. So there's a lot of variability. This is a list of universities and it's not complete that are already teaching privacy in Europe and North America. I am not aware of what is going on beyond Europe and North America, but also in research, so this sort of goes together in a way. And at Leuven, I have two courses, and I will talk a little bit more how I address the challenges that we identified. Right? And very high-profile universities, which is also nice, because I think it also increases the chances that this will sort of have a ripple effect, and other universities will sort of copy the fact that these universities have introduced these courses in the curriculum. In the case of CMU, Flemish University has a full master, a one-year master in privacy engineering. So they cover quite a broad range of topics. They of course focus a lot on like privacy policies, human-computer interface, but it's a full-year master and therefore they cover really a lot of ground. And also in Europe, the University College London has started a new master in security, and they also, because also they have very good people with high profile in privacy research, and they also introduce courses in privacy. So we are seeing that in the last few years, this is coming into the curriculum. So it's not quite as dire as we might think. So, the slides in two places. So we identified this discussion. Basically, what we did, we had a round table. People talked a little bit about what they do in the course, and what sort of we brainstormed a little bit about what challenges we found. So of course there are many challenges. So first of all is at which levels should privacy be taught, and we even had people who were teaching privacy at the secondary school level. So there was a secondary school teacher, and they had a partner with Drexel University, and they were having some lectures with the high school students on privacy, and it was a very successful experience. In fact, we in the Spying project, this project we were involved with in Leuven, together with other partners in Belgium, and CMU was also a partner. We developed a manual for privacy for primary school teachers, so that they can teach their little kids some sort of basic safety measures when they go online. So basically, first of all, is at which level are we speaking about? Primary school, secondary school, master, PhD. Of course, at the PhD level is the best covered ground, because there we have many summer schools, we have lots of activities. It's also easier, I think, for researchers to just teach research to PhD students. So another question is, how do you scope your course? So, okay, your university says we would like to have a course on privacy. Go ahead, and then you have, as I do, you have 20 hours to lectures to fit in, like, I don't know, thousands of research articles that are out there coming from all kinds of perspectives. How do you decide what to include and what to leave out? You're going to leave out mostly everything. So how do you choose? And then of course this is also related, like how is this mapping with the rest of the curriculum? Are you in a master that is a master in computer security? Are you in a master in electrical engineering, in a master in computer science? So depending on where this course is fitting, you will have to scope depending on that. Of course, the sort of the background of the lecture is going to have an influence. If you're a person that is coming from a computer security perspective, it's very likely that your course will have more of a perspective on privacy technologies. There are these technologies coming from computer security. People who are coming from a human-computer interface background, they will focus more on research and results and tools that are developed in that kind of area of knowledge. Same with data mining. Some people are doing more data protection related research, or more in touch with the law and policy. The other question is, do you do a course that is very disciplinary, in the sense that you teach people like very deep down the techniques, they know how to program these algorithms, they know everything about it, or do you want to take a more interdisciplinary approach that sort of zooms out of the specific practice of the discipline and looks more into how privacy is viewed by different disciplines and takes into account the knowledge that has been generated, not just from computer security, but also from other areas in computer science, as well as from other disciplines such as law, sociology, psychology, and privacy is being addressed from all these different disciplines. How do you decide what your objectives, what the students should learn? Do you want to teach them about the concepts? Do you want to teach them about the specific algorithms and techniques? Do you want to teach them as engineers, if they have to develop a privacy system, what sort of programming practices they should follow? Do you want to educate them as users? If they are going online on the internet, what sort of tools they can use? They should use. Do you want to teach them how to use Tor, how to use PGP, sort of more of as end users? All of this changes very much the scope of the course, and you can have two courses on privacy that are completely different in a way, and they will both be addressing very important aspects of it, which just come from a very different perspective. And then of course teaching methods, are you just having, well, this is more general in education, you have to think about the teaching methods, or you just give lectures, hands-on exercises. What are interesting hands-on exercises for teaching privacy technologies to students? Do you want to use games? Do you want to use film and literature to sort of maybe link it to issues of surveillance or issues of social interest? One of the problems is that we don't have any textbooks. And this was discussed. Nobody wanted to step forward and say, yeah, let's do a textbook, because of course it's a lot of work. And I wonder if the time is right. I mean, I don't know, for a textbook, things have to be a little bit settled. Fields have to be a little bit mature, so that the hypes are over and you can really see what are the foundational content that everybody must absolutely know. And I think maybe that's a bit early still. So I personally use a lot of research articles in my courses. So I want to now speak a little bit, just introduce my course. I'm teaching two courses in Leuven. So the Privacy Enhancing Technologies course, I taught it this year for the third time. This is an optional elective course in the Master in Electrical Engineering, so I'm actually not in computer science, I'm in EE. But the students I have, for example, this year, half of them are coming from EE and half of them are coming from computer science, because the course is also available to students from other masters in Faculty of Engineering who want to take it. So I have about 10 students. Of course, this is an elective course, so they are all highly motivated and they all know about NSA and yes, they are very gung-ho. It's really nice actually, and because they have very few students, they can also have very interactive classes and we have discussions, and it's actually very nice. The other course is the Privacy and Big Data course. This is new. I taught it this year for the first time. I will speak a little bit about this one because all the rest is about the other one. So the Privacy and Big Data course, this is part of the Master in Artificial Intelligence, and they made a new option on Big Data, and they wanted to have a course on privacy and Big Data. They wanted me to focus mainly on ethical and legal aspects, which was very challenging, so I said, okay, I can, let's do something a little bit broad. I want to talk about the big picture of when we are speaking about privacy. I want to give them a sense of, what is the link to technology. And then what I did was I partnered with other colleagues from Leuven, and we also had invited speakers from other places, from the Oxford Institute, for example, who came and sort of covered different perspectives from the legal point of view, from a policy point of view. So this was also like sort of piggybacking on the network and the research network. It's also nice to be able to have the real experts, colleagues come and cover what they know best about. So the objectives that I identified in my privacy technologies course, which is 20 hours. 20 hours sounds like a lot, but it's actually very little. So I had this dilemma of should I teach them, like, should they really know how, for example, an anonymous communication network works, or should they be able to know to do zero knowledge proofs or implement differential privacy algorithms? This would be a full course. Like any one of these topics would be a full course, and even after that, I'm not sure they would really be experts, because people with full PhDs on this, I mean, they still feel that they don't know everything, right? So I took a different approach and said, okay, I want them to understand the big picture. I want them to that if they are engineers and they are given a system that they have to build, that at least they are able to think, okay, what privacy concerns should I think about here, so they are able to, looking at the big system, already have a first idea of what concerns they should take into account. And also, if they are going to make design decisions, I want them to understand how different design decisions affect the privacy of the system. So, for example, that if they have one big central database, this is going to be a central point of failure. That they can instead use techniques that use multiple databases with distributed trust, such that no single entity is a point of failure. So these kind of principles are the ones I focus on. Then of course, the course is focused on privacy technologies, so I want them to understand the design principles of these technologies, and this is very much security engineering, because what I'm covering here is mainly anonymous communication systems, a little bit of advanced crypto protocols for privacy, collaboration privacy technologies, obfuscation techniques, and so on. So I want them to understand these technologies that, building blocks that you can, put in your system to achieve some privacy. How do they work? What do they do? How do we measure what they do? How do we design them? How do we analyze them? And this is, of course, a bit superficial, but at least I want them to understand the basic concepts about that. I want them to, again, because my course is from a security perspective, I want them to have this adversarial thinking when they see a system, that they sort of are able to see, okay, how can the protection that they put in place can fail, or when they fail, or under which conditions they hold. So be able to contextualize the kind of protection that a given technology will give you. And then more sort of broadly, I also cover a little the basics of what human rights legislation says about privacy, what data protection says about privacy. I give them some articles to read that are coming from legal scholars or from scholars from social sciences, so that they also have a bit of a broader view, and they don't go out in the world thinking that privacy is just about crypto or something like that. That they understand that the problem is bigger, and that they are able to put it in context in the bigger world. And finally, this is also something that our university tries to do, which is connect research and education. So I also, in the exercise sessions, two of the exercise sessions, they have to read research articles and provide a review of these articles, and then present the articles. So I want them to also be able to read scientific papers and be critical when they read these papers, and to extract the main ideas and to be able to present it to an audience. So this is part of the objective, even though it's not specific in privacy. The other exercise sessions that we have some problem solving, the big reviews that I mentioned. One thing that is lots of fun is a debate. And this, if you're doing a privacy course, I totally recommend this. So what we do is that they have roles that they take on. So for example, we do the NSA debate. We will have a couple of people being the NSA and US government, and a couple of people being EFF, and a couple of people being the European Commission, or being Google, so different stakeholders. So each of them takes, in groups of two, they take a stakeholder, they have to go online, look for the positions of this stakeholder, for the discourse of this stakeholder, and then when we come into the debate, they sort of have to fight each other, defending the points of view of their stakeholder if they personally don't agree with that. And with this, it's also to show them a little bit what sort of frictions appear when we are dealing with privacy in the world, because of course, certain solutions are going to empower, disempower different stakeholders, and this is something that they need to understand. That it's not that the whole society is aligned in this. Privacy is also very much about friction, so this is also something I want them to know. And sometimes in the big data course, we had one session in which they were shown documentaries and films, so this is also things that can be used. Just to give as resources, maybe we can leave it here in case people want to copy these addresses. So this was one of the outcomes of this informal meeting we had last summer. So we have Jaap-Henk was very nice to set up a preaching in a wiki that they are operating, and a mailing list. This has been quite dormant, but also because it was like just the beginning of the holidays, summer holiday, and then people became busy. But at any point it can be activated, and the idea is to collect their links to courses, links to curriculums. So in the wiki, the idea is to collect a list of links that you can go there and say who's teaching privacy. You can have links, go to the courses. Maybe they have a description of the course online or slides or whatever, so you can get in touch. And the mailing list, so that you have a group of people that you can, if you have a new course, or you have questions, or you have ideas that you can share, and these are also people who are teaching privacy. So I think at any moment this can be activated. It would be very interesting to do so, because it seems that we are gathering a critical mass actually of privacy lectures. So I have more of a positive message, I think. It's not that bad.
Here's the
Yes.
audience.
Yeah, and just to add, it is active, it is online playing, it's
Yes.
operating, it's
It's
just
a matter
waiting
of-
for you guys
It's a matter of
to send the first mail.
Exactly.
And then wake us up.
Yes.
Thanks, Claudia. Before giving the floor to the audience for questions, I actually have one question that relates to your remark about the textbook, whether the time is right to have to compile a textbook on privacy by design. And that's also related to what Claudia was saying about the curriculum, because it seems as if we want to have privacy in the standard curriculum, then at least we should have a textbook, right? What's your opinion on that? And how should we, is there a way, do you think, so the question is the time right to have a textbook? Or should we wait, and should we not?
Well, I think one of the big problems is that lots of the faculty that we have at the moment have not been trained on privacy. So anything, any material, whether it's a textbook or it's a collection like the one that you're putting together anyhow, I think it would be helpful. And it's only once it has become sort of de facto standard that will go into the curriculum, I think. So it's certainly a textbook would be great. And then if we need to write the second textbook or the third textbook, it happens all the time. I mean, but somewhere we need to start.
Right. And do you what's your view on the multidisciplinary aspect of that? Because we have, at least Claudia has been approaching this more from the technological, say the computer science perspective, and basically that was you did that too. But then again, if I and Carmela were basically saying that it's basically to have the extreme position, it's not technology stupid. So maybe how do we deal with that in that perspective?
I think we have one problem. I think we need to have strong technology people that eventually can link to other disciplines. I mean, interdisciplinary is always based somewhere, right? You need to bring something. So yes, it would be great if in the textbook there was a connection to other disciplines, but then it wouldn't be like what you're doing, picking a few papers or getting invited speaker. I think if we're talking about the education of computer science students, I would go for something technical and then create, perhaps including ways in which the various techniques can be connected to other disciplines, or should be connected to other disciplines.
Okay. Anybody in the audience who wishes to has a question or wants to share his experience? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, I'm an engineer from University of Ulm, UPM. Some of you already know me. And I think we engineers are trained in solving problems, in giving the right solutions to problems, but we are not trained in solving the right problems. We do not wonder at what are the consequences of our actions. We do not think that we may be impacting other people's lives in unexpected ways. So I would like you to reflect on that, and also going more nearer to the specific curriculum. Many computer science curriculums now teach human-computer interaction subjects or courses, but they do not teach at all socio-technical system courses. Do you think that that would be a way to introduce privacy engineering?
Yes, yes. I mean, definitely, that's a way to go. I mean, I think there are lots of needs there. One is the need of opening to other disciplines, and then there is the need of really learning about the techniques. And the two things are absolutely necessary. Now, if we talk about a textbook, I think it's good to have a focus, because otherwise you end up covering nothing, right? Or not covering. Yeah, exactly. So I think a textbook should have a focus. The courses that we're going to put together will use this material that is focused, but then create the right connection. The question is, do we have enough people out there who can make those connections? I mean, when I tried to do this, and then from what you were saying, you also did the same thing. I paired with experts in other fields, and we spent hours discussing how to put the two things together and understanding each other, and before we even went to class. So, and I think this is all work that needs to be done in order to offer the proper courses to our students.
I think, Seda, you want to respond to the question? Or
I wanted to follow up on it, because I mean, obviously, there's no, we can reflect infinitively, and I love that. So one of the things that I've been doing over the last year is reading about the history of engineering and how engineers have, like every about 30, 40 years, have just put themselves at the table saying we can solve society's problems. And then they've been subverted massively, right? Like, so they're, in the 60s, you have like all these engineers who kind of want to, notice that technology is being used for bad, so they, come with progressive values, and all that happens is that their language gets adapted by the engineering practice, but none of the changes that they propose. It's not so bleak, but I think there's something very interesting about seeing, on the one hand, engineering as a practice in historical perspective, and I think that might be interesting to give the consciousness of now that some of these students are going to become professionals, and that they have this history, which also is like embedded in history of professional organizations and all sorts of associations and stuff like this, and then to give them, things like, engineers have tried to solve, have tried to address conflicts by designing them away. I mean, I think that's like an important sentence to discuss. Like, is this what we want to do, or should we like find other ways to engineer conflict sometimes? So I think maybe that kind of reflection that is preparing the professionals for what is coming in their direction, which we actually have very little experience with in academia. Like, we don't know what it means to have a boss necessarily in an engineering company with a project and timeline and budgets and things like this. So I think maybe that kind of professional education and historical education is also relevant.
Right, can you respond to that?
Why do you feel the responsibility to solve the world's ills as an engineer?
Exactly. No, this is exactly the question. I mean, like, why are we doing privacy? Silly us.
I mean, the reality is, I think it's fantastic that we're giving a foundation to higher education students to understand the requirements of privacy. But the reality is that I would expect, my own daughter to understand why she shouldn't be giving personal data away on crashing planes, which is what she's done just last week. The reality is, you as an engineer, you will have a job, you will have deadlines, and if you don't meet those deadlines, the business will fire you. You would hope that the business will ensure that they've undertaken appropriate risk assessments, privacy impact assessments, etc., to put the appropriate controls in place. I don't think it's fair for the engineer to be the conscience of the company, to be frank.
To be the what?
To be the conscience of the company.
No.
It's unfair. And so the reality is that as an engineer, I would anticipate that you will be given a set of requirements of which privacy controls and security controls will be the foundation of that.
Can I just counter that? I think there's an interesting delegation relationship between any bureaucratic management and engineers. And there's a moment in which the expertise of the engineer kicks in, and that needs to be done responsibly. And exactly how that's going to be done is something that engineers speak among themselves, as well as regulators limit and constrain or enhance and enforce. So I don't think that, I don't see engineers as just like taking orders from their hierarchy and then implementing them. I think a lot of the engineering that we see in privacy is about creative ways of dealing with the problem that no bureaucrat and no legal person and even no individual may be able to come up with. So I think there's something there that's valuable that we need to absolutely critically think about. This idea that we can solve problems, that's exactly the reflection that I wanted to have.
So what we did was, I was the chief of security for a big government department, and we would undertake privacy impact assessments with technologists as well as with the business to ensure that we kind of had a collective approach to address this.
Right.
That would be the approach that you would do. But, you know, it's unfair for the engineer just to be said, well, there you go,
Absolutely.
go and make this product by this particular deadline and make sure that there's no problems with it. Because
Agree.
that, and unfortunately, that seems to be happening as well.
Exactly.
But the better approach is to be part of that decision-making process. And that takes time, it takes longer, it adds cost, it adds complexity. So that has to be balanced with the business needs as well.
If I may go back to education. I want to, so Raj, one of the things that I'm a bit confused with when you speak about it is that you're conflating sort of the lack of preparation of engineers in computer science and system designers, and the lack of competency in making systems such that they are privacy preserving with end user problems of not understanding the value of their data and so on. And I think that this second concern of people should be more aware that they shouldn't give their data away. To me, this is a little bit more like safety. You shouldn't cross the street when the red light is red. This, to me, belongs in primary education, secondary education. I don't think we should be teaching people at the master level that they shouldn't give their personal data around, right? So I think we need to be very careful not to put, because it's not one thing, it's a full landscape. And I think we should not be confusing elements that belong in very different places.
No, I mean, I have to disagree. There are occasions whereby, you know, different consensual requirements will vary upon specific verticals, and actually having higher education about what should and shouldn't be included needs to be at a higher level. So, for example, I agree, you know, making sure that primary education perspective that you understand why you should be giving information on here, there, and everywhere, absolutely. But understanding the differentiation between informed explicit and implied consent from a healthcare scenario isn't something I would expect anyone to understand.
There's a question. This gentleman here?
Yeah, thank you. So, back to the textbook, and actually Claudia is preparing educational materials. So my question to Claudia, but also to other Claudia, to Jaap, is what's the relation between the textbook and the education material, and also about the cookbook? Is there, could we create a link and to kickstart the things with the cookbook, the education material, things like that?
I would say that actually those things are very, very much related. So in effect, I sort of hope that by collecting this material on the wiki, connecting all these experts through this mailing list, and also collecting the experiences in the IPEN cookbook that you're referring to, might actually deliver initial content, actually combined with the INISA report that we wrote, as some input that might eventually lead onto a textbook. And actually, this is something that is in the back of my head already. So if people are interested in talking to me about that, then please do, because I think actually you posed it as a question. I would actually answer it. Yes, I think the time is right to at least do something there. Other question. I think you were waiting. You were.
A very good question for Claudia. You mentioned this spying manual that you prepared, because I'm now in a project about data protection materials for schools in Europe. So data protection, I'm coming from a legal perspective, every time to think about this legally. But I'm really interested in knowing about the manual, and I don't know if you have some experience or feedback on whether it has been used and how did it.
So this was the research colleagues from the University of Ulm, from the Department of Educational Studies, that prepared it with input from the technical and legal partners. And it's of course very simple rules for like teachers being able to tell their parent students. It seems that these partners from Ulm reported was that the teachers were very happy with the material, and they actually had to do reprints because they ran out of copies. So it seems that it was actually quite successful in that sense. It's in Dutch.
Can I just add a little bit, advertise a little bit of prepare material? Because I focus here on computer science education, but in prepare we are also looking at the general public, and the general public also includes also children. So we are also producing material there that will become available to everyone.
Yeah, question.
What kind of role do you see privacy certification play in this general education effort? So the International Association for Privacy Professionals is offering this program called the Certified Information Privacy Professional, which used to be a mainly legal, like certification to legal professionals or policy professionals, but they're also offering Certified Information Privacy Technologist program now. I just took that a couple of weeks ago, and There are actually textbooks for it, but they're not at the level you would want to have for higher education. But for example, so I'm from Cargl, we started offering, partnering with the IEEE to provide these certifications actually in to our students in the privacy engineering master's program. Because we noticed that the companies are looking more for these credentials. So what is your standpoint on this? Maybe from the academic side as well as from the industry players?
Do you first respond to that?
I actually don't know what is materials, but I would respect that in principle that, as you say,
Coffee break in 5 minutes, please.
they don't go as deep as one would want. So I said here a lot of things, and I'm going to take the opportunity to take something back that someone said here about it is about to solve the right problem, and to solving the right problem, you need to learn a lot of things that Claudia has said about the general problem. And I'm not sure, and also know about the technologies to kind of be able to do a top-bottom approach.
What it does provide is this overview and more holistic consideration of problems and kind of like how do I stitch parts together and how do I combine like my technology with management of that technology and management of data. But yeah, you're right, like the technical depth is not at the level you would want from a higher education.
Might I make a pragmatic suggestion that if you have pointers to material that they have, to add this to the wiki so that most people are aware. There was a question at the back. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, first I'd like to thank you for the panel. You've made my day. I'm here. Because we've been working on developing training materials and teaching at a master's level on these issues because this is probably quite obvious, but privacy is not only a challenge in computer science, but in anything, in policy, in policing, the things that we work on. And one of the things that we found is that when you work from a privacy perspective in these fields, you need to have some techie knowledge. Like it gets to a point where if you don't just want to be the person that says no to everything, you need to be able to get into the technology. And so we've been trying to reach out to you for a long time. And I think that after 2 years, this is the first time that I found a place where we might be able to build the bridge or like find someone in the middle, you know. And we felt like we've been building this bridge, hoping that we'd find someone along the way, and this is it. and that just happened today. But it's been incredibly hard to find, even though I know some of you. But for some reason we didn't click.
Ask, in what field are you teaching?
In what is the field? We don't know anyone. In social sciences.
All right.
Social sciences. But yeah, the masters will be in sociology. But you know, we've had to become multidisciplinary to cater to different needs. That was another of the problems that we found. That when we reached out to people that knew something about privacy and anonymization, their knowledge was usually very narrow. And so it's hard for us to rely on someone who only knows about this little thing and they don't have the overview perspective. And we've been putting out calls to hire people, to recruit people to teach everything. 0 replies. Like there's a big distance between your world and our world, and I think we're fighting the same battle. So I'm very thankful that there's a mailing list. We will definitely revive your mailing list. We've got so much material.
Okay, cool. One final question because then it's time.
Yes. Hi, Christian, Radboud University, almost to Jaap-Henk. So I've been doing a PhD now for a little over a year, and finding definitions for privacy. I had the luminous idea of trying to find a singular definition. No such luck. So I get anything from the writing let alone to a very pragmatic definition Jaap-Henk once gave in one of his papers, treating privacy and data protection as synonyms.
Therefore, many people will kill me.
No, I need to hide. Yes. So purely from computer science, what is privacy? What are you going to teach? What is the definition that you're going to put in your textbook? Privacy, semicolon, voila, definition.
So
to all of you.
What I do is I give them multiple definitions. And I say, well, if you're coming from this perspective, this is how privacy is conceptualized, and this is why, because this is sort of the universe, you know, how thinking operates. If you're coming from this perspective, if you're coming from this other perspective, then it has nothing to do, and then it means this other thing. And I don't think it's not about finding sort of some universal essence. I think it's about them understanding the multiplicity of views, because they are going to be confronted with them anyway.
And it's not only computer science. I think humanities. Yeah, I was teaching in this master in public policy. on how you understand privacy in that specific context.
I think it's time to close.
Okay, yes, now
Final words.
it's my final duty to close the panel, and I want to brief just thank you a lot for all your active discussions here. You basically confirmed that we have touched an important topic, and I would just say let's meet again on that mailing list.